Hello everyone, Brendan here again, and today I will be doing another editing tutorial. This one will be 100% in Lightroom. I will spend no time in Photoshop, and the goal of this is just to show you guys how I've gotten to my editing style and how I get my photos to look the way that they do. So let's go ahead and get started. A few of you guys might recognize this photo. I had it up on my Instagram. Here's the raw file, straight out of the camera. Once again, I'll show you the edit. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to try to do this without peeking at the final version. See if I can recreate it for you guys. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the, actually let me just go to the edit. Create virtual copy. That just creates a copy. And then I'm going to reset this one. Alright, so we're back to the raw image. So first let's address our composition. Honestly, it looks pretty good. I just don't like having that reflector in the bottom of the frame. So I'm going to crop it out. I'm still going to try to preserve the aspect ratio that it was shot at. So I'd say this looks about decent. Next thing is that the shadows look incredibly crushed. Just going to bring those out for now. As you can see, we brought a lot more definition to the wheels, but looks a little bit strange, but it'll be addressed later, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Add a teeny bit of contrast in there, and a little bit of clarity. And I'm not going to touch the vibrance or saturation, and I probably will not today. Alright, so next step is in the HSLs, and HSL is, it stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. Basically, you can change the hue, saturation, or luminance for the individual colors that are in your image. A lot of people desaturate their blues. I generally do desaturate my blues as well. And yeah, I pretty much always do unless the car is blue. So let's give that a shot. As you can see, the photo didn't really look overly blue. Oh, forgot to mention, always correct your white balance. First, and the way that you would do that is use this eyedropper tool. You select a white area and it does it for you, but as you can see, this photo was actually pretty much balanced straight from the camera, so I didn't really need to do it, and that's why I skipped that step. But if that's not the case with your photo, just use that eyedropper tool and get your white balance right before you do any other adjustments. Alright, so back to the HSLs. Yeah, so I'm going to take the blues out, take the aqua out. I'm really going to take everything out of it. Dial the greens back a little bit, because we still do have a lot of greens back there. Not a lot of reds except for those brake calipers, so I'll put it about halfway back and then do this, because I still like having that yellow, kind of yellowish orangey center line. Okay, so that looks good. Now after that's been taken care of, we can get into the split toning and the color grading and all that. So a lot of you guys probably know I also shoot videos, and what I've gotten from that is the orange teal color grade. Very common in cinema, action movies, stuff like that, and I've just kind of carried that over to my photos. So the way that I go about doing this is I like to pull the saturation all the way first for both the highlights and the shadows, and then use the hue slider to dial in the hue, and it's a lot easier to do when your saturation is cranked to an absurd value. Okay, so that's good for the highlights, orange, because we're doing an orange teal. Shadows, gonna get them in a teal. This is kind of personal preference, exactly where you want it, but I'll just shop it right here. Now that I've gotten the hue locked in, I'm gonna drop both saturations all the way to 0, and then I like to start with the shadows. Slowly ramp it up. Stop right there, and then use the highlight saturation slider to kind of counteract whatever you've done with the shadows, until we get a nice orange-teal balance. I'd say that's probably about good. I like how the oranges look on the highlights on the car paint, so I'll just leave it right there for now. We can always come back to it later. Just working my way down this window. You can sharpen the image. Always zoom in when you do this. It's really the only way to do it. Zoomed in. Looks good. I'm not going to touch the noise reduction. Lens corrections, I don't really think are necessary with this lens. Some people might disagree. I shot this on the Canon 50mm. Here's my settings right here. It was on the 50mm f1.8 lens, great little lens. Although I'm not going to go into my gear for this video. A lot of people ask, so I'll probably make an entire, I'll probably do a whole entire video just talking about my gear. Not going to add any grain, usually don't. And yeah, we're probably all good. Camera calibration slider, I usually don't get into. It can be incredibly useful though, so I'm not gonna, I'm not saying it's not useful, it's just for this photo I really won't need it. So now we're gonna get back up to our top window. I usually like to add gradient filters to the ground below the car. Now what gradient filters do is, as the name implies, they only, they apply your edits as like a gradient. So as you can see here, if I do something like an exposure change, it like starts by applying it the most down here and the least up here. So I actually am going to darken the ground below the car, but of course not to that extreme. And all I'm changing here is the exposure, everything else is left at 0, or the middle. Darken that area a little bit. I also like to darken the sky a little bit. Now darkening the sky is really cool because it actually allows you to bring a lot of definition into it. Those clouds really kind of pop now that that's done. Yeah, I'd say that's about good for now. So as you will notice, because we have put 2 gradient filters onto this image, both which are darkening, we've brought in a lot more teal into this image just because we've set our teals to the darks. So we have this balance slider in the split toning, and what the balance slider does is it kind of controls what's favored, your highlight tint or your shadow tint. And because we've brought a lot more darkness into the photo, I'm just going to increase this a little bit, which will favor that highlight orange a little bit more. So now we've kind of, I'd say, balanced the photo out, you know, once again. Now I'm going to make a few more slight adjustments. These are really just the finishing touches. This last step is like, really should be looked at on different monitors and stuff like that, because I'll generally, you know, export and send it to my phone and it'll actually look different, and then I'll make slight adjustments there. I'm just going to quickly do a couple things. Dropping those highlights, because we actually had a lot of brightness over here and up here, but it's not anything crazy. That's it, that looks good. Gonna dehaze it a tiny bit. Don't go crazy with the slider. The dehaze and the clarity slider, try not to go too crazy with them. And I'd say for now we're good. So let's see how I did overall. Alright, so, oh wow, I actually cropped them differently. I left the reflector in for that one. So it's not quite as good as the one that I did for Instagram. I mean, this edit did take me probably 3 times as long to do, but it's the same general idea, and you guys got to see pretty much the same steps. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, hope you learned something new, and comment what you'd like to see in the next video. Thanks for watching.